So, yeah, let's just start with how you entered the service and then where you went for training. Or
I entered the service, I thought, about a year and a half prior to the time that I actually went in. My neighbor and I decided that we would go in the Air Corps and get ourselves properly suited and be flyboys, because they made more money and it was exciting. And I had gone into aeronautics in high school at Cass Tech High in Detroit, and I thought maybe I would wind up there.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
My friend got in, my next door neighbor got in and was accepted, and they turned me down because they said I had an arm that wasn't proper. I could not rotate it, the left arm, because I'd broken it as a child, and I had to have it operated on. It was the radius bone that controls the movement, of your hands. And the Air Corps people said, no, you probably won't be, you'll be going in the service at all. And so I had to kind of write it off. But in the meantime, I got called for duty through the normal draft procedure, and I had made up my mind that when they asked questions going through the physical, that if I didn't respond at all, that would be bad. So I would have to have some kind of an answer, and either that or I would claim that I can't hear, but even there would knock me out. So I didn't offer any information. I didn't give them anything, and they didn't ask. They were in a position where they were needing men badly, apparently, and were just taking people in. And so I was passed through, and even an eye doctor was in one of the groups of doctors that approved me, and he had said, your eyes will probably keep you out of the Air Corps, if nothing else. And it wasn't the eyes. They didn't even question the eyes. But anyway, that's I then went into through the draft and was sent to Battle Creek, Michigan. And Battle Creek was a staging area for people that were going into the service in various areas. And at that time, they were starting up a new division called the 10th Armored Division, which was made up entirely of armored vehicles in the main. And it was like most other divisions, except that they'd go into battle with their vehicles. And I thought that sounds pretty good. But I wanted to get into I still wanted to get into the Air Corps, and he noticed on my records that I'd had classes at Wayne State University on aircraft engines, and I said, yeah, that's true. I work at them. I'm a tool and die worker, and we started working on them, and I got interested in the Waco engine, and that's the motor that has opposed pistons that work. And the configuration of them fits beautifully into the wing of a plane. And my friends and I figured that was the future for aircraft engines, and I wanted to go that direction. They said, well, we don't have them, but we have radial engines in our tanks, and I'll put you in there. And I said, no, I don't want that. Well, it was the wrong thing to say. You don't do those things to people that are trying to put you away someplace. And he said, no, I don't think so. The next thing I know, I'm in a segment that's going to the infantry. They're armored infantry. You're carried to your destination in either an armored car or a half track, something that has some armor around it. But being claustrophobic, I didn't want to get into anything that was enclosed that much, and told them so, and I guess I could talk too much. Anyway, I wound up in the infantry, the armored infantry, and they sent me to Augusta, Georgia, and which is a nice town. You know, first of all, I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, where we were in with about 1 million paratroopers and other people in this base that's located in Georgia, but has had a long history of having difficulty with the people on the post coming into town and raising hell and not maybe contributing much to the welfare of the community. In fact, George Patton, a general of one of the armies, one of the divisions that had been there before us, it was said that he at one point in time had asked his artillery people to line up their guns, and they said, well, where are we facing? You know, where do you want them? And he said, on Columbus, Georgia. I'm sure that's facetious, but nevertheless, the feelings were there. Most people from that town would probably prefer that the training school and the paratrooper school and now the new division school that was on another piece of property adjacent to that would probably go elsewhere rather than stay in their area. But anyway, I went into the 10th Armored, and I got out about as quickly as I could through the process of volunteering. We had been told through various sources, whatever you do in the Army, don't volunteer. Don't volunteer for anything, you know. And I had that in mind, but yet I wanted to get out of where I was, so the rule went around, or the message went around, they're recruiting people to go into a special platoons that they're forming. And I wanted to know what kind of platoon, and they turned out to be, they called them Tiger platoons, because 10th Armored Division was known as the Tiger Division. And these were made part of each infantry battalion headquarters, and they were 20 men and an officer, and their duty was to do recon and intelligence work for that battalion. And sounded good to me. I found out that you wouldn't do much walking because they had in my case, they have 6 jeeps and an armored car for 21 people, 20 men and an officer. And so I asked my friend, where are you going? I'm going to this thing. And he said, fine, you know, if it's all right with you, I'll go along with you. So he was from Pennsylvania, and we were pretty good buddies. Anyway, everything was fine until the training turned real serious, and they talked about sending us overseas. And we began to have people with, if not strange illnesses that they hadn't mentioned much before. And we had one man walking around counting the tiles on the floor, and or the cracks in the sidewalk and things like that. And he had been perfectly normal before this, but suddenly he had this affliction, and we gave them a bad time. But they had made up their mind they're going to get out of the Army one way or another. And in one case, I happened to know of this man because I had watched a stage production on one of my leaves in Hamtramck, Michigan, and who was in the cast, but one of the guys that got out, and they had given him a Section 10 release, and a Section 10 is not like a Section 8. You know, it is for the benefit of the government. In other words, the government is telling you, in effect, we can get along fine without you. We'd just as soon not have you, you know. Well, it suited him okay, and he didn't give a darn. I had to take him to the railhead to put him on a train to send him home when and he happened to look out the window and was in effect giving me the finger, you know. You dummy, you stay, I go, you know. But anyway, we had names we called them, and it wasn't pleasant, but there were people that did not want to go across. So when I talk about the Army, it is a conglomeration of a whole bunch of people that are in our society one way or another. The fact that they're all in the Army all of a sudden doesn't mean they change character.
Right.
They are what they are, and we suffered with them like everybody else did, I guess. But in the main, these were good human beings that were trying to do something for their country, and we all just felt good about ourselves and condemned those that couldn't see it.